Good evening, everyone. How are we? Thank you, everyone, for coming down. My name is Henley Samuel, President of Gungahlin Community Council. So, on behalf of the council, we'd like to welcome you all, and for all the people who have been possibly tuning in right now on Facebook. So, welcome, everyone, and this is our August public meeting, and because usually we don't have one in July, so it's good to see you all back. Today, I just want to gather a couple of items. Before we do that, I want to just some housekeeping things. Before that, we do have our team. We have Ralit Shah and Michael with us from the executive committee, so thank you, guys. If you're not familiar with the setup, we do usually stream these things on Facebook. So if you like to be up to date on what we do and those kind of things, you can like our Facebook page, and also we do have the news, the e-newsletters or the mails that we send about those notifications as well. So if you go to our website, you can subscribe for those ones, so you won't miss the notifications. And the video of this one will be available on Facebook, but because of the new Facebook policy, all our live streams are being taken down by Facebook itself. So if you aren't aware of it, so any live stream that you do, that will be taken in, 30 days or something like that. So we have moved on to YouTube. So if you're watching this, we can share our YouTube link in the comment section so you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. So moving forward, we might stream directly from the YouTube, and then we'll share the link on Facebook. That's the plan we have. But today's meeting is in Facebook, and we will make sure a copy of this meeting will be uploaded on the YouTube as well. So today we have a couple of items. As you can see, GCC have done a survey, which is big. I think it's a kind of a super hit. I would say. We almost have nearing 1,000 people already, participated in the survey, which is a great news. And the survey goes till August 31st. So if you haven't done it, please do so. If you already done it and shared with your friends and family, thank you so much. It means a lot to us. So in the last week, we did a media release about the survey as well, and there were a couple of articles that been published as well on the press. I just want to quickly touch base if you're not aware of what we are trying to do with the survey and stuff. So I just want to give you a recap. I will also take this opportunity to run through the survey again, because this is the last month that we are running the survey. So I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of this and everyone knows that something is happening. So I just will be covering again to recap what we are doing as well. So I'll give you some interesting fact that we found so far from the survey. It's like a teaser. It is like, as per this survey, we're getting a strong 87% support, more on community consultation on major infrastructure projects. And 81% wanted targeted strategies to attract commercial business to Gungahlin. And 3/4 of response see delayed infrastructure like cinema is impacting the community, vibrancy and economic growth. And 71% said, they want to expand the healthcare services with many supporting hospital facilities in Gungahlin. So these are some of the key things that's coming out of the survey. So it is a great information that we could use so that the government can make the informed decision. And most of the MLAs are already supporting this survey. I've seen Lee and Castley already shared our survey link, and James Milligan MLA, he also shared our survey link on his Facebook page, and Andrew Braddock, I think he's also scheduling to share the survey link as well. So we get a majority of the MLAs also on board with us, which is a great thing. And so this is the survey. I will quickly go through what are the questions as well, just for the, so that people will know about what we are doing with the survey. Let me go into the other slide. Sorry, just give me one sec while we swap the slides. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to run through the survey questions. It shouldn't take you too long to do this survey. If you have some spare 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or on the way, on the go, whatever you want to do this one. So the survey overall, it has a lot of multiple choice questions, and we do have some of the questions with prefer not to answer, so that if they don't like a question, they can just say prefer not to answer and move on to the next one. So it gives an opportunity for everyone to respond, even if they don't know any particular or not having interest in a particular question, they can just say and move on. So it's try to make sure that we are getting enough data out of the people. So one of the questions about, this is the demographic questions about the age, gender, and where they live. And this is the commercial amenities questions, and what additional commercial outlets and amenities would you like to see in the town centre? So it talks about the electrical, the household goods, fashion, clothing, department stores, wellness, restaurant, everything. And if by all means, you can also type what do you like to see in Gungahlin. So I think this is a great, question, I would say, because it would gonna give us the data that really what people are looking in the Gungahlin town centre. And also this is about the top 3 additional recreational facilities. It could be a cycle path, or it could be more playgrounds, or it could be barbecue, picnic, all those things. So people can pick, their top 3. And also there's the next question about the top 3 community facilities, like what kind of festivals they like to see, like something like Floriad, or more street markets, or like a street art, or health and fitness. So it covers pretty much all age group. So based on what they prefer, they could answer. And this is the another question: would you like to see permanent location for community market or fresh food offering? Whether like to see like a market space, whether indoor or outdoor. So we're capturing those data as well. And this question: would you use an event space in Gungahlin? If so, what event would you hold? So we also want to see whether anyone, if someone is interested to run a festival in Gungahlin, and what kind of the event would be. It's going to be 50 to 100, or, so we want to make sure that we capture that as well. So that's the question there. And not all the questions are mandatory as well. So by all means, you can skip, but we would suggest and recommend, if you can respond to all the questions, that'll be really good. Do you use Gungahlin Library, and do you have any comments about it? So you're talking about library, and what kind of facilities they like to see, and even people can say about the books they prefer to see or not to see, those kind of things as well. They can put it on the comments. And this is a very key question, number 10. This is about are you concerned that ongoing delays in building a cinema in Gungahlin are negatively impacting the community and local economy? So if you're really keen to have cinema in Gungahlin, I think the question number 10, it's for you. make sure you respond to this survey so you can get an opportunity to talk about that cinema, which we've been waiting for. I lost count now, so I don't know how many years now. So it's been on and on. It's going forever. And this one, please select your top 3 environmental priorities, so people can pick those things what matters. We also try to include, electric cars charging stations and all those things, whatever we could think of, so which is good. And the 12th question is, how do you rate green space in Gungahlin and its surrounds? Do you like to see much, or is it how it looks right now? And then we also want to capture what the people think about the green space in Gungahlin. And this is another thing. Please select your top three priorities for roads in Gungahlin. I'm not sure, how many of you seen those morning traffic? If you live in Gungahlin, you would never miss it. These days, I'm pretty sure people not working from all the 5 days. Everyone is at least working from home in one day, but the roads, you don't see any difference. I was thinking other day, what would happen if we all need to go back to work like 5 days a week? Maybe I can't imagine the road, because it's like a massive exodus that happens. The only person missing on the road with Moses with the stick. Otherwise you can see pretty much everyone. It's like a big exodus that happens every day. And Mirabee Drive, struggling. Clary Am's Drive, struggling. Gungahlin Drive, struggling. Osbog Drive, struggling. Everything is struggling where we don't have a duplication. And I think this is one of the key things that government need to understand. We can't be sustainable in this model. And sometimes people always throw this in as an example. Oh yeah, we're going to move away from cars. We're going to get into the public transport, yada yada. Very good. But even with those places and cities that you compare that purely run on public transport, say Singapore, the roads are wider, bigger. The roads infrastructure always get upgraded. So even if you're going to the full public, transport model, you still need these roads to be upgraded. And one of the things, the Barton Highway, the roundabout with the lights, everyone knows that's been, with an accident and stuff, it's been ranked among the top 5, maybe top 1, maybe on the ranking as number 1. But if you're really concerned, this is your opportunity to have your say which road you think needs the duplication or upgrade. So that's the question. So we tried to cover most of it, including the intersections and all those major roads. And what needs to be the focus for parking in Gungahlin Town Centre? Are they looking for a more open plan parking or closed parking or the multi-level parking? So want to understand what's community's preferred option. And some of these data, I'm definitely thinking this is going to help the people from SLA as well to future plan things as well. And if people have electric vehicle, how they like to charge at home or at work or shopping center, so we're trying to collect those data as well. If you work, where is your usual work location? Home-based, mobile, or Gungahlin, Mitchell, and Western Creek? And I think it's an interesting thing. What we found so far, only 8% of the Gungahlin population works in Gungahlin, which is a bit scary. That shows that we don't have any employment opportunity at all, and we need to bring more business into the district. So that's what it shows. What method of travel do you use to get to work? Mostly I think at the moment it's all pretty much I can see every day. Most of the cars are going around, so mostly it's a car. And because there's not enough connectivity with the light rail, or there's no direct buses from our town centre to other districts, obviously people don't take those ones. So this is a question to get that information. And this is like a rating. How do you rate travel options in Gungahlin overall? And this is number 20 is a very important question. you know. Well, at the moment, Gungahlin is the only district which doesn't have any connectivity to other districts. So Belconnen, you can connect to Gungahlin, Warden, Tuggeranong, everywhere. But with Gungahlin, all you can do is go to Civic. So that's the only option we have. Maybe to Belconnen. So this question is targeting, because we don't have the employment hub in Gungahlin, would there be at least a trial, bus service to see whether people are interested to take buses during the peak hours from Gungahlin to, say, for Brindabella Park or to Warden or to Tuggeranong. So this question captures that. So it helps to reduce the traffic congestion. What health or safety concerns do you want to see addressed in your suburb? So this talks about both health and safety and all those things. We know at the moment Gungahlin do have a problem of a lot of, innovations, the burglary that happens in the commercial place and stuff. So this is the question tried to capture that. And are the healthcare options in Gungahlin sufficient for growing population? At the moment, the data that we are receiving, no. That's a clear answer that we are receiving, no. And mostly, people are trying to, the response towards more health services, and people like to see an hospital in Gungahlin. We missed a great opportunity rather than putting a hospital in the other, outside Gungahlin, like in Belconnen, because there was already existing hospital was there. So we could have probably built a brand new one here. So there are very interesting data coming up so far. And this one talks about the nightlife in Gungahlin. So this would help how we can, improve the nightlife in Gungahlin. And so we're trying to collect those data, what time they like to visit the town centre, and what others, do they feel safe or any retail option that they're looking for. So those questions are there. And then also what kind of facilities or venues they would like to see during the night time, whether it's a fast food or supermarket or entertainment venues or live music venues and those kind of things. And this is the interesting question as well. So which of these recently completed ACT government plan studies or reports have you heard about? Shockingly, not many have heard about any of these ones. So this data would be very interesting as we proceed. So please do respond to these questions. And the number 27, it's a really important one. Do you think the ACT government should adopt more targeted strategies to attract commercial businesses to Gungahlin in order to stimulate economic growth and support community development? So we need some kind of government subsidy or some kind of government initiative to attract the business to come here. Otherwise it's going to be very interesting. If there's no flowers, bees won't come, pretty much. So if the government doesn't take any initiative or promote something, otherwise it's really hard to bring that economical growth in the Gungahlin. And then the last one, would you support more community consultation for major infrastructure projects? And I think that's where we are at. So we have 28 questions, but shouldn't take 5 to 7 minutes. Depends on how quickly you want to do. So this is accessible via your mobile as well, and you can also do it on your computer. So please take this one. And how many of you have taken the survey in the room so far? Yeah? 1, 2, no? You're done? Yeah? 4. Andrew probably done it as well. Yeah, I went here. Yeah, cool. Please do it. It's very important. It is kind of your opportunity. It's a mini election kind of a thing. I know we're done with an election, and we don't. In another 3 or 4 years, we don't need to gonna go for the polling station again. But I'm saying this is your great opportunity. If you haven't done it, please do it, and also share with your friends. And if you already done it, great. And I also want to thank you for those almost 1,000 people who already taken it. This is really great. And if you get another 500, I would be well pleased, and that data would be really good. So we can. The plan is to make sure that we can make the government accountable and they can use this survey and make the informed decision based on the data that we can collect. So that's what it's about. So please do participate. If you haven't got the link or anything, please put your comment or question there. We can just chuck in the link over there. Fantastic. All right, that's about the survey. Now I want to there's one more thing I just need to quickly tell. The survey finishes on the end of this month, so please make sure that we all complete it and share with your friends. All right, fantastic. So next in our item, we have Suburban Land Agency with us today, and they're going to provide us an update on the indicative land release. They're going to give us an update on the Gungahlin Town Centre, Kenny, Jacka Local Centre, and Moncrief Group Centre, and Taylor Local Centre, and those, I think, much more. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Andrew, the Director from SLA. Thanks, Andrew.
Sure. Sure. Excellent. Excellent. Good to go. Thank you, Henley. So my name is Andrew Griffith. I'm the Development Director of Gungahlin with the Suburban Land Agency. For those who haven't met me today, we do have a couple of other SLA colleagues in the audience out here, and I'd give a bit of a pro tip that definitely take the opportunity to meet our CEO if you get a chance. I think a few of the rest of you who've been attending a few times would also maybe note Joey, our Executive Director of Place Delivery, in the audience. So I'd like to start with acknowledging the Ngunnawal people as the traditional custodians of the land we're meeting on today and recognise their ongoing contribution to the city. I might just jump to the next slide, which I think gives a bit of an overview of what we're doing. But I was also going to just take a little second there to say we would definitely, I've got it, apologies. Just take a quick second there to say we definitely would be looking forward to the data coming out of that survey, and it's great to see that coming. I think there's a lot of strong alignment with the work we've been doing on GTC East, and hopefully even the future releases in GTC East offer opportunity to be able to deliver some of those elements. And then more broadly, if we hadn't seen them before, but I think you'd be across some of this stuff, there was a Gungahlin District Community and Recreation Needs Assessment, but that new Directorate of the ACT, the CED, where we've put Access Canberra, Transport City Services and the former Planning Directorate together, are also looking at an ACT-wide study within that same social infrastructure space. So I think they'd also be very interested in seeing the outcomes of your survey. So I'll probably take that one away and try to connect you with the team that's running that district, that district and ACT scale needs assessment. As noted a little bit there, we've got a pretty stacked agenda today because it's been about 12 months since we've been in the room here, which is a slightly longer time than we'd normally take, but the good benefit of that is we've had, I would say, quite a lot of positive upgrades on great progress on GTC East. We've got a lot of sales across, and I think I've noted this in a few previous presentations, that it's quite rare to see a town centre, a group centre and a local centre release, and we've got two local centres up on the board here, a group centre and the town centre. So it does tie a little bit to that survey around what could be coming, that there is great opportunities within those group centres, the town centres, to actually be addressing some of the feedback that comes back through that process. And then a bit of an update on some of the other estates. I know Kenny's got a lot of interest from the community for many years. It's starting to move towards when we'll be able to start showing master plans and things like that. And then Taylor and Jacka, just to close out there. So I'll just do a little bit of a quick one. I won't dwell too much on this because I think we've been in this forum quite a few times, and the overall SLA stuff's quite well known within this forum. But I'll just touch on some of the minor changes since last time I've been here. So we've got kind of the two ministers there. The chief within the Gungahlin space has Gungahlin Town Centre because it's now classified as an urban renewal project. Again, those classifications can tend to be interesting across the districts, but that's the one that sits there. It still does go up through both ministers, so we keep both of our ministers, which is Berry and Barr, quite well across those projects. You might also see a new word in there, so homelessness has jumped into that portfolio as well. And then just rounding that out, we also report up to a board. It's quite diverse. And then just the last point, those watching some of the commitments at the last election cycle might be across the enabling 30,000 new homes. You can kind of see SLA's got quite a large component of that within the ILRP, but probably the lion's share of making that one happen. So we've been again in this forum, and you've probably seen this one come up a few times, which is creating great places where communities thrive, and we do try to live through that one. It's not just a marketing pitch. We do try to use that as a lens when we're doing projects and making decisions of, does it align with this? Is what we're releasing going to create a good place? And it does help to drive decisions at that high level when you're bringing back towards that kind of that vision and aspiration. And then some of the other touch points, we're looking for diversity of product, a good balance within affordability, and affordability means different things to many people, but that's again affordability whether you're looking at a small house like we've got on the Jacka micro lots through to a townhouse or up to a bigger single res block. And again, a couple of the other ones in there, as I said, housing choice, environmental sustainability, and again, social inclusion and diversity. So that's kind of like the key of what we're trying to deliver through land releases with SLA. Jumping onto the indicative land release program, this is a document that government typically releases once a year that shows the intention for land release across all of the ACT. It's always good to drive home the indicative word within that indicative land release, that it can have some flexibility within it. So I'll get to it on the next slide, but Gungahlin does look a little bit more agile than it usually would this year, but we are also working on other releases that aren't yet showing up in the ILRP that could make their way into this financial year. But again, we would be back in front of the Community Council to try to give good visibility when those decisions are made. So just jumping through there at a glance, Gungahlin's got around 4,000 dwellings or blocks to support, up to around that 4,000 dwellings over the next 5 years. It could even move up and down, as I said, with indicative of if other blocks or areas. There is certainly strong reinforcement from government around wanting to deliver that 30,000 new homes, so that is putting a lot of emphasis on making sure that we're getting land release out efficiently to deliver the outcomes. And then even jumping there, Gungahlin will certainly lose its crown as one of the fastest growing elements of Australia as Molonglo starts to come out of the ground, but that's by no means saying that Gungahlin doesn't have some big years ahead. That 4,000 dwellings along that 5-year period is quite large, and when you're looking down across the districts of Canberra, it's towards the top of that list, and then across the list there, quite large amounts of commercial, community and mixed use land, and hopefully that would be supporting again some of the elements that might come out of that survey of things the Community Council or broader community feel are gaps or might want to see happening. Hopefully a lot of those large scale releases provide opportunity for that to happen. This is the actual ILRP for this year within the Gungahlin space. So we've just got Jacka on there with the 205 blocks. I will note very quickly that many might be aware of the koala sighting that could impact some of that. So that the large component of that 205 blocks is the next stage of Jacka. So with the status of that, where that one sits is there was an initial due diligence program that was done. That's come out and recommended that SLA do what's called a self-assessment. Not to panic anyone, self-assessment is not self-determination. It is not SLA sitting there and saying, everything's all good, we can do whatever we like. It's a very robust process through the Commonwealth Government. So the end of that will really drive what happens next for Jacka, and we'll look to give a good update to the Community Council on other elements after that self-assessment is finished. It is kind of pitched at around up to a 6-month process, but we would be hoping that we get some strong idea on the direction within that space before that 6 months is up. So as I said before, even though it only shows the 205 for Jacka, we are working towards trying to get other releases out there. I think government and SLA's executive were quite generous with timing when we were doing the Gungahlin Town Centre East place and design framework, and that has led to a pause in kind of releases within the town centre. And I wouldn't call it a backlog, but there is now a good opportunity to start to get those releases back out the door. There's been a couple of years there where we have had quite large releases move on, and that's to government's credit of taking a pause to get it right. But within the next year, you're starting to see Gungahlin Town Centre really jumping up towards 1,000 dwellings, so it is quite big releases. Off the back end of this year, as I said, even though we're only seeing Jacka on here, we do actually have a couple of blocks within the Gungahlin Town Centre that we're working on as we speak towards enabling their releases. So whether they make it into the back end of this financial year or the next financial year, we'll definitely be trying to talk about those so they don't come as a surprise. So jumping into Gungahlin Town Centre East, because there is so much happening in here, we have split it into two projects now within the SLA of GTC East and GTC West. Now, if you can't align yourself with a compass, don't be too concerned there. GTC West is effectively the existing town centre where all the buildings are. And so there's a couple of blocks in there that are temporary car parks that we're looking at. And then GTC West is as you head down on the light rail where those big paddocks are. If you've been to the circus, you'd probably be able to find that's the rough location. And that's where we've done the place and design framework. So that's typically the split along these next two slides. So Gungahlin Town Centre East, we did do quite a lot of, there's quite a robust engagement program over the last few years to come out with the design and place framework following an aspiration. And now the process that we move into what is called a subdivision design application. It will use the framework to effectively try to go through a subdivision type development application that locks in cadastre, locks in planning controls, puts a little bit more of the finality around it so it actually becomes statutorily enforceable and allows us to release with those controls in place that deliver on the aspirations of the framework. It's worth noting the framework is again guidance that might have some little parts of departure as we move into the subdivision process because it's the nature of doing that more detailed work. Also interestingly, the kind of lead consultant on that one working with our team was Indesco who did the 2016 GTC East, so it's really good to get that continuity of understanding of the town centre on our project team that's doing some of the more technical work in that background space. As noted up there, the SDA proposal, we're hoping by about mid-2026, and there will be some more opportunities for engagement on that one as it starts to flesh out. But just circling back a little bit, there was very, very robust engagement on the place and design framework, so that was really the big opportunity to have your say on this one. The SDA is more now just trying to implement that engagement previously, so we definitely won't be trying to walk away from further engagement, but we don't want to repeat engagement that we've already done that can tend to frustrate stakeholders. Also too worth noting in that one, you did pick up in the survey there around aged. So one of the opportunities that did come up with the Gungahlin District Needs Assessment was potentially some residential aged care. So not within that hospital space, but you're either transition to retirement or higher intensity retirement. And that is definitely one of the uses that we might be looking at within Gungahlin Town Centre East or West adjacent for a release in the not too distant future. If that materialises, we'd definitely come back and give a bit more visibility, but that's one of the ones that is being looked at as we speak. Moving on to GTC West, so again, the existing space there, we do have kind of two large blocks left. There's a couple of little other small opportunities, but it's two large blocks that we'd be talking about. So that is, first one is block 3 of section 232, so that's this one down the bottom here. And it's adjacent to a little construction site for a government commitment towards a community hub that's coming out of the ground as we speak. Now that one, they are both operating as car parks. 232 does have a park and ride on it, so we are working with what is now CED, or formerly Transport Canberra, on making sure that we have a good understanding of parking provisions within Gungahlin, not doing adverse impacts on capacity to actually get in and park there, but also to making sure that we've got a balance that whether this is the right place for park and ride longer term or whether it should be in a more strategic location. So as we work through that one, we would be hoping towards, there's also a major plan amendment on that one to uplift the zoning. So that's quite critical to get the release out. If that happens this financial year, we'll definitely be looking to get this block out here, a release process. And again, we'll do some more engagement of what that looks like and as we get a little bit closer towards that side. The one up the top there of 228 is probably a little bit more challenging, not in terms of release, but on its time frame. So it does require a subdivision design application just to lock in a few little things like boundary changes and some other elements. So we would be expecting the following year that one to come out there. They are both commercially core zoned, so even though they are operating as interim or temporary car parks, that has never been their intent. Their intent was always for them to transition into a release. And again, with that commercial core, there is an intent that it would pick up some level of commercial within definitely that ground floor plane and hopefully a little bit above. So you would expect both of these releases, again, whether it's this year or the outer years, will contribute towards some more commercial opportunities within the town centre. Jumping on to Kenny, so we're starting to progress a master plan process, and that will be able to be within the public domain within the next 6 months or so, and that'll really start to show a high-level scheme of what type of typologies or different housing options there are, what the yield might look like, what our initial thinking for road connections, initial thinking for community facility provision land and all of those bits and pieces. There'll be an engagement process that comes out as part of that, and I'd also be putting forward that I think we'll probably try to target a specific Kenny Gungahlin Community Council presentation as we get a bit closer on that one. I think it is one that's got a lot of interest, and the master plan will be, I think, good enough for kind of like a 20-minute session as we get closer onto that one. So we'll look to gear that in after we have some timelines that work a bit better there. Moving into that, it's about 2 years out on the ILRP, so the first release is within there and then it'll stack out. It is worth noting this is the last planned estate within Gungahlin, within that greenfield space. So there's a few other minor options, but when you're looking at that big picture structure plan from many years back that planned out the scale of Gungahlin, Kenny is the last piece. So it will be good to kind of round that one up. It also has some interesting stuff within the territory plan and the districts about wanting to be an exemplar survey, exemplar suburb. So we're definitely taking that one to heart and making sure that we deliver something that aligns with that exemplar vision. Just to touch on that one, we're also going through that subdivision design process. The tenders closed, I believe, yesterday, so we're going through putting on that kind of lead consultant who help us tie through from the master plan to the kind of the DA application detailed work that allows this one to be, again, embedded within the territory plan to start to do construction releases. Jumping on to JACA, so the JACA Local Centre went through what I would consider a pretty rapid release process. Now we'll get to another slide later that was a much slower one in terms of the two-stage processes. So SLA's continued to evolve our approaches to feedback of industry and community around the release processes and results that they're delivering. So that one has sold and settled. It's gone to a group that's called Eden Group. They've been, I think, quite collaborative with SLA so far and have a little bit of their own engagement going. So there's a link up to their website there for anyone who's interested in what might be within the JACA Local Centre or jumping out there. We do like to say that we don't give up accountability, but after we've done the release, it really does sit with the developer to look at timing, the exact tenancies. So again, if we take questions on ones like this of what type of shops are going to be in there, I can give you some answers on the opportunity, but it's really for the developer to determine the actual tenancies that they're looking to go within there. So there's a range of stuff that can fit within here, within the permissible uses, but it really does come down to the developer to come up with something that's feasible and works for them longer term. The second dot point there is also a good one to touch on. So we did put within the sales pack that we wanted this one to go to the National Planning Panel, the National Capital Planning Review Panel, Design Review Panel. This doesn't fit within the thresholds of when you would normally need to go there, but we did get, I think, really valuable feedback because it is in the heart of JACA. It is quite a significant site. It was great to get feedback from the panel. It's helped to refine the outcome of what could come on this site. I'm sure they also wouldn't mind me sharing that the group that is delivering the local centre has picked up the block adjacent to the local centre, so they've got themselves a little bit of a mini precinct, so quite a good opportunity for some holistic outcomes along there. Again, they're targeting a DA towards that December, but that's within the developer's control. And then from there, you could find that it could be staged development. It is a reasonable size development of whether they build it all in one hit or try to get out one element or two elements. I'll only quickly touch on this one because I definitely don't want to steal the thunder of our very capable built form team. So within the SLA a few years back, we did step up a built form team that started to want to look at delivering projects that either there's a gap in the industry or possibly some other challenges that industry might struggle to deliver, or to pilot new and interesting projects. So this one goes back quite a while from the JACA business case of wanting to trial what at the time was determined micro lots and is now evolved into small or compact housing. So it's effectively trying to get a good, efficient typology onto a smaller block that doesn't compromise and doesn't feel like it's squished in there, and so is using the land really efficiently. And then again, some of that initial intent was also to using adjacent public domain, so you have shared spaces without losing backyards. But it's really trying to hit that price point of your own house and block on a quite affordable area there. But again, our built form team would be, I think, quite interested in doing a more substantive presentation to the Community Council if there is interest in this project. I'd probably say if that was the case, you'd want to maybe wait till the DAs have come through the process. They're going through the planning process at the moment, so once there's a DA there, it's a approved process, and we'd have a really good idea of what's approved to construct and get underway and what the timelines are. So I'll touch base offline, but if there is interest in this kind of pilot project, I'll definitely ask the built form team to come back and maybe do a more substantive presentation on this one. Jumping into the Moncrief Group Centre, again, just referencing that it was, apologies, it was a slightly longer release process. We have refined within there that again, looking at some of those two-stage processes and whether there's better ways or quicker ways for us to deliver these things. But I think on the backside of that, it has resulted in a pretty good outcome there. So credit to the team that they did a good job of focusing on the principles of what we would like to get happening on the Moncrief site. So that was accessible parking, or a good mix of parking, so basement, surface, really good integration to the public domain, because there is a bit of a linear green spine between these two blocks. Good mix of other elements, and then the commercial size of the full-line supermarket and other bits and pieces like that. So we can announce that, or even though it's been in the media already, we can announce that Fabcot, or the developer that typically does Woolworths, has picked up that one, or has picked up one as the lead developer, and will probably work with a few places to get that delivered. There is a mix of resi within this one, as would be expected of a development of this scale. There's around 90 dwellings or thereabouts, subject to what the developer chooses to go through. And then within the rest of it, there'll be a mix of convenience service options, other things. So again, if you wanted to ask specific questions on tenancy, I can't really give a great answer on that, short of saying here's what's permissible. We can connect with the developer to say what they're looking at, but within a block of that scale, there's permissibility for things like early learning, supermarkets, cafes, and we did try to mandate some minimum floor space within Moncrief for things like restaurants and cafes. And then also too, there's some stuff within our sales pack about wanting to get quite a good high-end sustainability and efficient building outcome per the last dot point there, with things like EV charging, solar, and very, very high energy efficiency ratings. Again, just circling back to the Taylor Local Centre, so that's, I'd say, going through a similar process of the Jacker Local Centre at the moment. So it's gone out to a developer, as noted up there on dot point 1. They're going through the DA process as we speak, and again, apologies not to at all be trying to run away from the question on what exactly we will get there. It's another one of those questions on it does kind of fall with the developer to determine the exact tenancies, but we do keep touch base with those elements. So as we know more, or they're comfortable to share things, we will try to connect them through or allow them to do presentations on their own. So that circles through just the scheduled agenda of what I had today. Certainly happy to take any comments, questions or queries on any element of the presentation, or anything more broadly that you think might align with SLA's portfolio.
So anyone in the floor has any question? I do have a couple of questions to ask, if not. Thanks, Andrew. I just want to get into the slides so I can
Do you want me to circle back?
Yeah. Sorry, just give me one sec. So we'll go to the slide that you were talking about, the housing supply and land release. Number 6.
The big one?
Yeah.
Yep.
So with this one, we've got a mixed use land area, 50,000 meters square now.
Yep.
So what's the plan with those ones? Is it like mixed use? Like always, kind of the word kind of abused heavily. So is it some plan to monitor and make sure we have enough commercial elements in those space?
Yep. Yeah, good question. So I'll kind of circle back to what I understand was a lot of the tension on these ones from the CZ5, or the mixed use zoning that had that limitation on the commercial scale. Now, fortunately, with the commercial, at least my understanding, with the commercial core now established in the Gungahlin Town Centre, that little provision has disappeared, but we also don't have, or at least from what I understood, there's no more CZ5. So the bulk of this is likely referring to, I'll take it on notice and confirm exactly, but it's likely referring to what's called CZ2 blocks over in the Gungahlin Town Centre East. And again, that would have, provisions within active frontages on streets that do mandate minimum amounts of commercial. And then sometimes it'll have a ground floor requirement or a first floor requirement. So the simple answer would be yes, there will be provisions there, but we'll also, as we go through the sales process for any individual block, look at, does SLA need to supplement with with planning, supplement the statutory planning with sales documents to try to help to navigate those outcomes? Because to defend our planning colleagues, a lot of the time the statutory planning is around what we don't want to happen. So sometimes there is opportunity for us to supplement with well, we want to navigate this type of result, let's add a couple of other things in there. So just to extend on that a little bit, when we did Moncrief Group Centre, Taylor Local Centre and Jacker Local Centre, we absolutely put extra provisions within there of saying minimums that we would like to be seeing, and some other outcomes. So yeah, for sure, that I wouldn't expect that mixed use will just be resi and you'll be coming back and complaining to say, well, you've released commercial zoned land that doesn't seem to be achieving those results.
Yeah, it'd be great to see like next level details, like where these 50,000 metre square is located, sure, and what kind of zoning it is, and what kind of, is there any class to have, minimum requirements of those things. So it'd be good to see those, sure, details.
I think a large element of that conversation will be enabled by the subdivision design application for GTC East. So that's probably the lion's share of the land that's within that 50,000 up there. And so I think as we're running through that will start to show our initial view on block scales and things like that. The ILRP, I think by design doesn't tend to do that, so it only goes into detail on that first year, so it only shows the detail there, and then it tends to bulk up at the district scale. So while there is some thinking in there, again, I think the GTC East subdivision process, as that goes out, that'll be a good one to kind of drive what the thinking is to achieve a lot of that.
So that's the process that would commence this year, or?
Well, it's underway as we speak. Apologies if I didn't hit that one well enough on the slides, that we have appointed the consultant, which was that Indesco one there. They'll now be moving towards a process of trying to lodge a subdivision and design, but as part of that there will be an engagement process.
Okay.
Now that engagement does tend to be a little bit more towards the informed side, not to say that we always go that way, but because it's building on the place and design framework, we don't tend to want to repeat that. So a lot of that will be saying, here's what we heard in that process, here's how we're implementing it, and now a DA won't be far away. But it will start to show you detailed plans that show zonings, areas, any rules around active frontages.
So the subdivision design, that process or that framework, it sits within the SLA still?
Yep, yeah, correct.
Sorry,
just to clarify, it sits with us to lodge it, it doesn't sit with us to assess it. So we lodge it and then our planning colleagues go through and say, does it comply? Do you need to tweak things? Yep.
Okay. So that, so it says, sorry, I'm not clear about this process, apologies. It says the SDA will draw the design and the place for framework. So who's developing that framework, and would that be, would they engage the community council or maybe wider community to, help in design and setting up the framework?
Sure. So the framework is the one that we released in August 24. Now, apologies if there was a little bit of a time lag there where that one's kind of got a bit lost on memory more recently. So we went through quite a robust engagement process that the Community Council might remember in terms of forming that one up, that initially released the place aspiration and then led with the place and design framework. So it's a really good document for anyone who hasn't seen it on the GTC East Precinct, that does go through a lot of the aspiration, the initial thinking. I dare say that a subdivision design application will be quite similar to that design and place framework. So that's where we're saying there was a very, very robust, we formed a community panel to go through the engagement there. We did some with the college, we came to the community councils. So I'll flick a link around back to that one afterwards, and then it might diverge a little bit as you get into the subdivision planning, because that's where you do a lot of detailed work and go, that was a great idea, but we need to tweak this. But again, I think the subdivision application will be very consistent, or quite consistent with the framework.
Brilliant. And we do have a question online. At last year, there was a talk of community site being released in Gungahlin. Where is that, and has it been allocated? More broadly, how many sites are left in Gungahlin for community uses?
So that's a good question. I'll take the first one there, where it's probably, from my understanding, we're probably referring to some sites that were released under EOI process for community housing. So there were two of those. One of those was section 235, which is just a little bit over here, kind of fairly close to the mosque. And there was another one just below the Moncrief Group Centre. So those processes are still underway, and we'll advise on an outcome if and when we hear. And then there was also another process, and this also too might be what that question was referring to, where our CED colleagues ran a EOI process for a number of community sites across ACT, including one in Gungahlin, which was directly below the mosque. It will be quite transparent to say the mosque have some interest in that site, but that was open to all community groups to say what their interest was. That was going through a two-stage process. The last update I had was the shortlisting of the initial stages over, and then moving on to their second stage. So I'll take that question on notice just to circle it back to you on a timing of the likelihood of the outcome of both of those two processes. In terms of the second part, that's a little bit harder to answer. So I do know we'll have provisioning for some community sites in Kenny, whether that's one or multiple, or whether you want to include future playing fields in that. So there'll be a couple of sites within there. Within GTC East, there is still an expectation, and it talks to hectares, so there's still an expectation of quite a large amount of community facility use sites, whether that goes down as individual zone sites or floor area within a building. It is a pretty significant amount. So within GTC East of what's up on the board there, we will see a couple of, hopefully an anchor or a couple of sites. I can't give you the exact number on the number of sites just because it's not as well defined. But again, that subdivision process will draw lines around where we think we're going to be able to deliver on the intent of the rule that's within the territory plan of the remaining expectation for community use within that space. But that's probably the two big ones, quite a large amount still within Gungahlin Town Centre East and a little bit left within Kenny. And then this is a longer term one, but there's also possibly a little bit of community or future community use within the Horse Park Homestead precinct. But again, that's a much longer one that's not actually even on the ILRP as we speak.
Thank you. So with the Kenny master plan that you were talking about, it's at the moment expected to be released in the community in 2026. So
correct.
If it's going to be released in the community in 2026, is it like is it going to be available to the community to get the land, or is it you're going to release the master plan to show the timeline and stuff?
Yeah, so the master plan is probably more for development intent than timelines. It definitely won't be won't be too close to when the first releases are. Yeah. Now, this isn't guaranteed, but typically we like to run through a process for greenfield estates of getting planning approval and then awarding a construction tender before we start to do releases. So that's a little bit after a master plan. That's not saying there's not other elements, but you might find a master plan can sometimes sit minimum 12 months before the first releases, but probably a bit closer to 2 years. On the ILRP, as I said, we're still talking about 2 to 3 years away from the first scheduled release in Kenny. So the first scheduled release in Kenny is still around that kind of 3-year mark away.
Yeah, and just want to make a point. So with the new suburbs, as you know, the roads are becoming very narrow, and you're getting, I don't see any, compared to jack up stage 1, the stage 2 is better, but still the roads are really narrow, and when people are going to park on street or something like that, then it's pretty much really hard for people to get in and get out. And pretty much you see all across Gungahlin Town Centre as well, there's narrow roads. So it'd be good to consider some kind of way that, especially if you're putting a multi units or an apartment kind of a setup in. So you probably have some kind of parking facilities available on the road, so that people don't park necessarily on the road. So it'd be good to consider.
It's definitely a good one, because you won't find that this will be super low density. Just given the proximity to city, the evolving views, you'll probably find a lot of it is within that medium to higher, and not high, but higher density. So parking is definitely an interesting one to look at there. I would touch on, not at all to shirk responsibility, to say that we are a little bit constrained in SLA with the municipal infrastructure standards that do tend to dictate this classification of road is this wide. And because there's a little bit of a carryover onto operational maintenance of costs and things like that, it can sometimes be a little bit harder to go over the standards that are set for these things. But definitely point noted on that extra provisioning for parking more so than the road widths. But the road widths can be a little bit of a challenge for us because they are a pretty robust, you go to this classification or this volume of traffic, you get this size road. And again, there's not a huge amount of appetite to change that on a case-by-case basis. I think the other one that you've picked up in a few presentations previously is connections onto Horse Park and things like that. So we did do an initial body of work of strategic transport planning for Kenny, and we'll share any outcomes that are relevant into these forums as that comes through. But that's been looking at, what are the impacts on Federal Highway, Horse Park and Wells Station? How do we do that well? How does the suburb work? Making sure that we're not using rat running that you can see sometimes. So definitely transport and then parking are very important elements within that subdivision and master planning process.
Yeah, that's great. And considering there's it's going to be interesting because it's got the Federal Highway running on the other side as well, and then the Ospark Drive running on the other side. So it'd be very good to know what those details when it's available, how that's going to.
So master plan will definitely show intention of road connections. Again, intention, so you can adjust that later, but it'll definitely show the intention of how many connections would be in and how that's intended to be handled.
Yeah, perfect. Your question? No. Your question? No. So with the Jacka Local Centre, the site being sold to Eden Group. I'm not sure whether I think you came here last time about presentation about the Moncrief Centre.
Quite likely Moncrief.
Yeah, but I don't think I'm aware of this Jacka Local Centre.
Sure.
So,
so that might jump back to my presentation there, that I think we ran a pretty rapid process, which I think is good for everyone, industry and community. So it would have been on the ILRP slides for release, and then there was some community engagement that formed part of the release process, which then built on also to the estate engagement and then some of the broader engagement that we'd done on Moncrief and Taylor. So we were trying to say, look, we did learn a lot from Moncrief and Taylor. We've carried that into Jacka. So we did a small engagement process before Jacka went out, and then the sales process I think was actually quite rapid. It was out and awarded and settled very, very quickly.
So with the Eden Group, are they able to come and do you guys still engage with them, or is
for sure. We can connect you with them. They have, I'll leave that to them of their appetite to come in, but they have been very consultative and facilitative with us, so I suspect they would be open to that. But we'll connect you with the right contacts in that space.
Perfect. Do you know out of how many car parks would be available in this local centre? Is it going to be like shops, or is it going to be like a medical centre, or what?
Great questions for the developer. They have got some intentions of delivering some of those type of uses, but I think they are still running through their tenancy, so they might be a little bit hesitant to.
Look at their website, they give some pretty good examples. They talk about basement car parking, they're consulting the community now as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say it is pretty well provisioned on car parking. They've kind of gone for, I'd say, dominant amount within the basement, a little bit of, I'm going to get myself backwards depending on which way we're looking, a little bit of surface parking. And then they were also talking about whether there's some capacity to do a little bit of on-street. So they were looking at that kind of mix of those three options. But I would reinforce the website's actually quite good, and it actually does, they've got an FAQ stage on there that might be a lot of the questions you would want to ask of SLA. They've already answered them. It even goes specifically into what's going to be here, and they go through a little bit of what could be there, but sort of say, look, they need to move through.
It'd be great if you can connect us to them, so maybe we can get them to do a presentation on those ones. And with the Moncrief Group Centre, in terms of the time frame, do we have any timeline on that?
Again, it's one we'd have to take on notice and then liaise with the developer. I think for a development of this scale, that picture probably doesn't show it. It's two very big blocks. There's resi, there's commercial. It could be staged, it could be across a few things. They had started working through, so we have an initial meeting with them not too far away that does it's mandated within the sales pack about initial development intentions. We can take that one away and see what they're willing to share, but I suspect as they start to mature their thinking, they'll be quite happy to share things like their intended staging and their intended timing. Just to talk very generically, you can find developments of this scale spend about 12 to 18 months in planning approvals and pre-planning, and then a year of construction. So from our land sale for a development of this scale, it does tend to be a good couple of years before you start to see the buildings coming out of the ground.
Just a lesson learned, Andrew, because this Moncrief Group Centre would be a good example, because from the day one people moved to Moncrief, they were expecting the shops, but it's already maybe 8 years gone. Now another maybe three years or 3 to 4 years likely to be so. So we don't, I think these are the things should be available within a couple of years of a suburb being established. So if in the Kenny, you might want to plan those kind of things like as part of this one. So it will start in the beginning of the process. So then that, then when people moves there, that should be ready to be available and stuff. So it'd be good to.
It's an excellent point, and I think Kenny's got the benefit of an established community all around it. So one of the challenges with Moncrief is because it's a group centre, Moncrief came before Taylor, and so not to say you can't do that early release of that commercial, but in terms of getting the attractiveness for a developer to put full-line supermarket and shops and offers, you do need an element of that population established. So it is that competitive tension of if we go too early, it might not be a process, or they might stage it and it might not be a great outcome, but it's definitely a point noted. And we tried to get Jacker out towards that front end of the estate, and then Kenny, we're just looking at what the timing of that would look like. But again, Kenny does have that benefit of Harrison and Watson and a few other established areas around there that in terms of if a building gets there, you do have a captive population. But it is a good point of we do understand the expectations of people that they want the facilities pretty close to when they move in.
Yeah, and the other thing as well, the construction's going to happen when every other, like pretty much everything is settled in kind of in Moncreve around the surrounding, and then you don't want to put this big construction happening in the middle of all these things. So it's also kind of and also it also shows their interest. If they want an early engagement, then it also shows that they're really interested in investing in the community as well. So I don't expect them to on the day one, but at least within 4 to 5 years. Because you have everything developed and parallelly this is going to develop. So that'll be a good thing. And I know in the past you have taken the feedback from GCC regards to those connection roads, which you already looking into the Kenny. I think in the stage 2 of Jacka as well, you guys looked into those connecting roads with the Arsbach Drive and stuff, so which is good. So yeah, if you can look into that, that'd be good. I think I don't have any further questions? Anyone else? Any questions? Brilliant. All right.
Nice.
Thanks, Andrew.
Not a problem.
Appreciate that. Cool. Thank you so much, everyone. I think we're going to have a early mark today, but thank you for coming down. Andrew, do you have any updates in terms of any development that's happening in Gungahlin specifically, or is it something?
Firstly, thank you very much to the Gungahlin Community Council. I can say I entirely applaud the survey. I think it's fantastic for the Community Council to be able to hear the voices of the Gungahlin residents. It adds so much in terms of helping the Gungahlin Community Council advocate for, call for, hold the government for account. So if they've got the views of the community behind them, I'd love to see everyone in the Gungahlin area. Please fill out the survey, it's fantastic. Just a few things I've been touching on and working on. Firstly, we've just finished the estimates process, so that's very much where we hold the government to account for what's included in the budget. Some of the key things, for example, I was working on included the quality of the library services we have across the ACT and making sure that they are sufficient to meet the community demand. Also in terms of the public transport frequency, so that people are able to use that network, and also getting some updates in terms of some of the actions that have followed on from the Gungahlin Transport Plan. Just some Gungahlin specific issues I've been working on recently. Firstly, if you think of the area of Swain Street and Gribble Street up in what's used to be called Precinct 2B, up the top of the hill of Gungahlin Town Centre West, they've been having quite a few issues there in terms of, firstly, sufficiency of parking and parking enforcement there, because lots of people are parking on the nature strips and so forth. Also in terms of pedestrian access towards the lake, but also back down to the town centre. And so I've been talking to them and working with the government to see what we can do about that. Had a really interesting case where in Taylor they've got an issue where a private individual is storing a lot of vehicles in the street parking areas as part of a business of flipping them for sale. So I was trying to sort of work that through in terms of applying the legislation there. Also awaiting still a government response to my petition for secure bike storage in the Gungahlin Town Centre, so that people would be able to leave their bikes in a secure location when they ride into the town centre and be able to catch light rail to Civic or the bus to Belconnen sort of thing. So hopefully that'll come through shortly. And also started a bit of advocacy calling for a youth foyer. This is a service that is provided to young people to provide them housing, but also wraparound services to be able to support them be able to move into secure housing down the track, re-engage with education or employment, and also other services to help them. The ACT is currently building a foyer or has just recently opened a foyer, I should say, in Civic, looking at one at Woden, and I'm calling for Gungahlin with its booming population. We do have a need for that going down the track. Some of the stuff I've got petitions out there for in terms of trees are great, and I keep on calling for more trees to be planted in the Gungahlin area, but we also need more shrubs and ground cover just to ensure we have a diversity of habitat and good community spaces available for us, so I've got a petition there. I've also got another one about improvements to My Way Plus system. There are limitations in terms of the app and its usability, but also in terms of how we would like to be able to improve the public transport system here in Canberra. Upcoming work, I haven't started this yet, but because Gungahlin College is currently at capacity, we are now seeing an issue where Gungahlin residents are actually being allocated to Dixon College, which, as you can imagine, that's a bit of a trek if someone would prefer to be able to go to their local college. So I'm just starting to try and understand how much of a problem is that in terms of the number of people impacted in the community. If that has happened to you, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm very frequently in the Gungahlin area. I'm holding a hot chocolate store on Saturday the 23rd of August in Gungahlin Place. Please come along for a free hot chocolate. I'd love to do that. As once we get out of the colder months and we'll go into the warmer months, I'll switch over to ice lemonade. Would love to have you to come along and just talk to me about your views of anything that may be concerning you. And I'm also usually in Gungahlin on a Friday, and about half of Saturdays I'm somewhere around as well. But that's just a quick synopsis. It's not everything. It's just what quickly just came to mind. I suppose I'll just throw it open for any questions that people may have.
Yeah, just quick one, Andrew. Do you know any insights on the cinema from the developer?
Alas, no, I don't have an update on that.
Okay.
I knew you would ask, but unfortunately I've got nothing that I can provide as an update.
All right. If you can find something and send it to us, that'd be great.
Yep, absolutely fair.
And with the road park, so you mentioned something about the update to the amendments or the rules regarding the parking thing that you mentioned, the Taylor. Sorry, can you please?
Sorry.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about that one is a private individual is storing a lot of cars in street parking spaces. Or maybe even swapping around number plates. And so it's legislation. So it's something I'm doing on behalf of the local community just to ensure that they are free car parking for an individual's business.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Further questions? But yeah, great. Speakers, and if you're going to watch this video in future, thank you as well. Make sure everyone remember the survey, and the survey is due by end of this month, the 31st of August. That's where we are closing. The survey next month when we meet to the Gungahlin Community Council public meeting, you will all see the outcome of the survey, and we will make sure we'll do a presentation what the community wants, and then we'll explain about the next steps. We're thinking to take the data to the relevant people, possibly MLAs and even ministers and chief ministers and anyone who's interested in the Gungahlin community. So that's it. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Have a great night. God bless. Take care.